Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is Umar from Daastan. So I cordially welcome you all to yet another session of Lit Ed Tech. Today we have an amazing speaker with us. His name is Ali Shabbar, and today we are going to talk a lot about inclusion. We have seen that in our daily lives, we live a normal life, but people with special people with disabilities, they have a very different life, a very difficult life. So today we are going to talk a lot about how to make those people a part of what we experience every day. So before I invite my speaker, let me quickly introduce who Ali Shabbar is. Ali Shabbar is the co founder and CEO of DeafTawk and has over 14 years of diverse experience working in the corporate and development sector. He initiated disability inclusive business process and is the founder of Pakistan Mobile App Awards. He has worked with British Council, USAID on inclusion education, Telenor Pakistan on Khudkar Pakistan, and Open Mind training program. Currently, he's in Denmark launching the Europe chapter of his wonderful platform named as DeafTalk. So, what exactly is DeafTalk? What are they doing for the deaf community? So, without further ado, let me just bring on board Mr. Ali Shabar. Assalamu alaikum, Ali. How are you?
Walaikum. I'm good, Omar. Thank you so much for hosting us. Indeed, it's an inspiration looking Daastan and following the footsteps of Daastan.
I still remember the talk that the days we spent together at National Incubation Center Islamabad. Truly memorable days, and the
Yes,
days when
indeed.
we went to Vietnam to represent Pakistan. It was
Yes,
one hell
indeed.
of an experience.
Indeed. And we are very proud to say that the platform which we provided by NIC and the government of Pakistan, particularly UNDP, it was amazing.
Exactly. So, Alibi, tell us a little bit about that. You co-founded DevTalk. So, just walk us through the journey. That why do you think there was a need for this app, and how it makes the lives of deaf communities easier using technology?
Yeah, to be very honest, there's uh, not an you can say pertinent idea that we need to launch Deaf Talk and work for the deaf community. It's all been happened as an accident. As you, in the intro, you told that I was working in Telenor. My all co-founders, AQ and Vamik, we all were in Telenor in 2017 when the era was digital, was announcing as a digital era, and all telcos were focusing on digitalization of their processes. We thought it's a good chance to pitch that why not we include person with disability in digitalization. So we organized mobile app awards, and the basic purpose is to develop certain applications which help persons with disabilities into day-to-day interaction or day-to-day doing tasks through mobile application which are inclusive for them or helpful for them. And that applications would be developed by different software houses or young students in the software engineering departments. So we received more than 200 applications. Out of them, 50 were shortlisted, and top five application got 1 million grant each by Bamrun Hussain, who was the president of
Wow.
that. Uh, Me and AQ were on the stage and was super. Said, oh, we did a great job. But when we came down the stage, Wamek was there in tears and yelling on us that you knew my challenges. And out of 200 applications of 50 and 5, nothing for the deaf. Why? And that was our eye opener because let me share a quick journey of Wamek that when he was in the fifth grade or early childhood, he was kicked out of that school because he unable to continue his education due to limited sign language interpretation in Pakistan. So his parents decided to move to US. Especially her mother went to US and his father, who was a famous poet as well, Hassan Abbas Raza. He used to wrote ghazal for Mani Begum like Ashiki mein had se guzar jaane ko ji karta. He stayed here with his
Wow.
elder brother and Vamik and his mother stayed in US for 15 years and after completing his education like computer engineering he came back to Pakistan and found again that particular challenge in Telenor and many other departments. There he pushed us. Now we need to work, Ali. Please, we need to work on it. Initially, we knocked different doors. Like at that time, Ignite was known as ICTR and Define, who was the partner with Telenor or Mobile App
Yeah.
Awards and many other organizations, but didn't get a very positive response. Certainly, an application was received, call for application received by NSE. We applied, we shortlisted, and when we went to NSE, Vamik told, "Oh, it's a jazz office. If we got selected, they will find us." Finally, the day came and they emailed us, "You've been finalized, and now your curriculum session will start. So join us on 4th of April." We resigned in a Rajnikant style and went to NIC. And that's how we landed in DeafTawk.
Very interesting. So you all are like different founders. So you all have like a certain disability. So how were you able to, I would say, communicate with each other? For example, Vamek, as you mentioned, he was someone who wanted a sign language interpretation to be able to understand.
Yeah,
So you and AQ have visually impaired. So
yeah.
how do you like kind of communicate between among the team? So wasn't that difficult?
Well, no, because initially we knew Vamek, and to be very honest, Vamek and AQ was best buddies before me jumped in. Because he worked in the same floor in Canada, so AQ used to help Vamek in communication and interpretation. AQ had that understanding of American Sign Language, which Vamek taught him. Then after joining DeafTalk, I learned sign language, but Mohammed did the speech therapy because 99% of the deaf across the globe unable to speak because they are unable to listen, so their vocals undeveloped. That's why they are hearing impaired and mute impaired. But Vamek had done the speech therapy, which is very expensive process though. But through that speech therapy philosophy, he can read the lips. So whatever I speak, he understands by reading the lips, and the other side, he speaks a bit.
That's interesting. So, I have like one question related to this. Like, how do deaf people learn? So, are their books different? So, for example, if I'm a normal person, I know that this is how the words look like, and if this is how they are pronounced, and this is what they mean. But for the deaf people, are the books different? And I've heard about a little bit about like sign language, but like, walk us through how does it feel to be in the shoes of a deaf person in this world?
Well, to be very honest, it's a very challenging part because limited sign language interpretation, limited educational opportunities, and over and above, very few products for the deaf community because it's a different nation and it has a different needs. If we talk about books, yes, the grammar, the language is entirely different. And there are very limited books which are available in the market who is comprehensively for the deaf. And if we talk of the mainstream books or mainstream writers, they mostly target 90% of or 95% of the population. 5% is a deaf community across the globe. They are unable to tap them or they are not positioning them as a potential readers. So books are very, very limited. Yes, as you said, it's a different or scripted game because the vocabulary is very different. On the other side, there is no grammar in it. Then they mostly rely on images and the customization of certain words, which is introduced to them.
Whoa, that's so challenging. So how does it looks like for a person who is blind? So for example, I have heard about Braille. The books are in
Yeah.
Braille. So
Mm.
are the situations a little bit better for the people who are blind, but or are the situations same for blind and deaf people?
Well, again, it's a very biased question. If I would be for, communicating in behalf of the blind community, I would say, oh, it's a very challenging. But to be honest, it's not. If we compare both blind with deaf, deaf has much higher challenges. Instead, they have a very few barriers, which is a communicational barrier. Rest they can see, they can move around, they can observe, they can get exposure, but because of the communication barrier, the exposure is so limited. On the other side, if we talk about the blind community, they have more leveragizations or opportunities even in Pakistan, it's just an example. I did my MS in supply chain management. AQ is a gold medalist from Punjab University, and we both are blind. But Vivek has to go to US for completing his higher education.
Wow.
And if we talk many other deaf across the globe, that's one of the challenges. There are very few deaf who did their high education or their ultimate degree is a special education in the high school. That's it. And that's primarily because of the communication barrier. If we talk about the availability, Braille is one of the technology which been initiated back in 1950s. Almas Braille is the person who introduced that six dot language, but now it's
Okay.
mostly absolute. We have screen readers, we have voice over technologies where mobile and laptops can easily then in Kindle there are voiceover where you can just put in the books and you can listen to all the books. Now the through different applications like Uber, you can make a quick 10 to 12 minutes podcast of each book and listen to it.
Wow. That's so cool. So, uh, I think one of the major challenges that these people face is one is like communication, and that would mean limited learning. So,
Yes.
when these people grow up, how
Hmm.
do they kind of get normal jobs? And I have seen that this is like where you guys say bridging the gap and where the deaf
Yes.
talk comes in. So, tell us a little bit about the impact stories of your platform, how you were able to transform lives of the people whom you serve.
Yeah, we always position ourselves as a Uber for sign language interpreters. Like if a general public calls Uber, they want a driver with a car. And for the deaf users, when they call deaf talk, they require a quality interpreter who can speak on their behalf. So we just bridge the communication gap, and in that particular phenomena, we have rendered more than 140,000 hours of sign language services till date. We have 25,000 active users from both Pakistan and Singapore market, and now soon we will be launching in Denmark. Uh, if we talk about the impact we generated through these services, till date we more than 700. I don't have the exact number. It's 760 or 765 exactly. Again, I have to reconfirm, but it's more than 700 that people got employment opportunities in Pakistan. 1,100 sign language interpreters got employment opportunities by providing their skill sets on our platform. Then 1,212 deaf users has been enrolled first time in the history of Pakistan at the higher education. Now they can be professional engineers or maybe accountants, finance guy, or doing some businesses. Now people like Make don't need to fly to US. They can avail that services in Pakistan as well. So that's
Wow.
a few, but maybe steps which we are taking. And hopefully, we will be the Google translator for the deaf community across the globe.
That's like one hell of a dream, and I'm like really proud to see how this has grown over time because we both started at NIC, and I have seen your journey over time. So tell us a little bit about the awards that you have won, the global recognition that you have received, and made Pakistan proud. I do remember some of them where we were together, but I think the audience would love to know your entire journey.
Yes, to be honest, we get a lot of inspiration from you guys. In the startup ecosystem, you are senior to us, so we follow your footsteps and the amazing work you are doing. If you talk about few international awards, the recognition we got, like we were the best startup of Asian Pacific in the UNDP and Youth Club, which happened in Vietnam back in 2019. We secured second position to Startup Cup Challenge in Pakistan. We are the winners of I'm the Change Award in Pakistan. Recently, we won the Zero Project Award, which is the Startup Ecosystem European Award. It's one of the highest awards. We were the winners in Zero Project in 2021. In 2020, we were the winner of Singapore International Foundation Award. So these are some few awards which we won and got the recognition.
So that's like really amazing. So now let's talk a little bit about the institutions. So like we have heard about schools, colleges, universities. So do deaf people have access to similar facilities, or do they have like special schools? And what's the status here in Pakistan? And do you think that it is improving in coming future, since DeafTalk is here and now is scaling, or is the future still bleak?
Well, yes, it will take time things to be improved, but well, we are now in a progressive direction, I guess. That's my opinion. I might be biased, but I feel like now 112 students have been enrolled at the higher education, in the mainstream part, and that's the beauty of our services. We always recommend that it should be an inclusive society. Why we develop segregated or special education for them? But coming back to your question, yes, there are special education institutes. If we talk about it, it's 300 plus special education institutes across Pakistan, but they are again on a very limited side. If we talk about the total population size, which is 9 million, and for them only 300 institutes, very limited. Uh,
Wow.
and again, those who graduate from these special education just done their highest degree from there. Rest, there were very few opportunities. If they were able to afford interpretation through DeafTalk services, they can acquire higher education in Pakistan. But again, the social economic challenges are still there, particularly people who are living in the urban skirts or rural areas. So there are certain challenges for them for affordability part. That's why we urge most of them, the government, to take certain steps. Like in Denmark, we are here in contracting with the government. The government is paying debt services to the deaf community, while in Pakistan through a SARS program.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit about, now let's talk about stories. So our human lives are totally incomplete without stories. So I'm just wondering, how do stories are narrated to deaf people? Like, someone mentioned that an interpreter is needed. So, like, can I become one? How do one become an interpreter? So walk us a little bit about this side of the story.
Yes, sorry about the voice distortion. Some outside work is going on, and I'm not sure why it happened. But apologies for some if you are hearing that distortion. It's not invited
That's
here.
fine.
Yeah, yeah. Now it makes quite. If you talk about the stories, yes, deaf people has amazing stories. They want to listen to the story and they want to express their own stories, and they are very expressive because sign language is a language which drives through emotions. It's an emotional language. Through emotion, they can explain. And I remind of one thing: being a blind person. Uh, Although I don't gather that emotion, but still, when my mom stays me when I was doing some naughty activities, I got to know that's and then realized it's a sign language. She can't speak, and she just stays. It's just emotions. So that's how the sign language builds. Everybody can be an interpreter. If you want to have a beginner's course, it's just a 4 months course, and then it's a practice. Because what I believe, if you want to learn a language, it's all about the practice you do. Although in Pakistan our first language are Urdu, but most of them now can able to speak English because of our 12 years of practice in till high school and then universities and now in the professional life. If there is a skip anywhere, then our English start rounding. So that's how
Yeah.
the sign language builds on as well. It's another language. I always remind the quote of Wame, like if I don't know English, I will be unpar or I can be illiterate or I can be Pendu most of the time. But if I or if somebody don't know sign language, then I became deaf. Why? It's just a
Yeah.
language. It's just a matter
Exactly.
like if we went to if we go to China and we became deaf because we don't know Chinese.
Exactly. So, does DeafTalk also provide trainings on if someone wants to become a sign language interpreter, or are there other institutes that provide this service?
Yeah, we do provide. We we do provide sign language trainings, and during the COVID period, we just pivot because at that time we were drastically drowning by the revenues as our service was required when the deaf people left their houses. And during the COVID times, most of them were stuck at home. So at that time,
Yeah.
we initiated few sign language courses and got a very positive response. And are now continuing that path. So they just log into our website, sign up with the upcoming course, and our team will correspond with them.
And that's good. So another I was a question that was I was really curious about was that when we talk about, let's say, a language, so a language has dialects. Like for example, if I just talk about Punjabi, so Punjabi is like again a lot of dialects, Pahadi Punjabi and other
Yeah,
Punjabi,
yeah.
and there are like five, six dialects. So when we talk about sign language, again, it itself is a language. So does it also have dialects? Like if
Yeah.
I am a sign language interpreter in Pakistan, a sign language interpreter in US or UK or China, so would the languages be different, or is it a universal same language?
Well, to be very honest, initially we thought it would be different. But after launching in Singapore, in Sri Lanka, now in Denmark, yesterday Vamik was communicating with some Danish users who are deaf. Almost 80% they can understand the Vamik sign language. And
Wow.
that's the beauty. So, yes, there are 20% are difference through dialect, but yeah, 70 to 80% people understand the universal sign language. So that's the beauty of, because most of the sign languages are derived from American Sign Language, which is the oldest one, and through that they have just developed their own cultural dialects. So um, if the general communication you want to do, you can easily do. But the professional one, if you talk about any translating the biotech conference or a health tech conference, that will be a bit challenging. But the general conversation, it can be done through universal sign language.
Okay. And are there like any global bodies that are working for the betterment of deaf community, and how are they bridging the gap? So walk us a little bit on that part, because we have talked a lot about how DeafTalk is creating an impact, what's happening in Pakistan. So when we go out of Pakistan and we look at the broader picture, so
Mhm.
what exactly is available for the deaf community in terms of support?
Well, if you talk about global bodies, there are a lot. Like IDEA is one of the prime global body in the National Disability Alliance who is doing it. Then there are specific deaf community groups such as GATS, which is Global Alliance on Assistive Technology and Sign Language Services. Then there is another group called World Deaf Federation, WDF. Um, and one more, there is a whole group of sign language interpreters, World Federation for Sign Language Interpretation, WFSI. So there are few bodies, and DevTalk is luckily member of all these groups now. So through that, we can engage the global accessibility and scalability.
Wow, that's really inspiring. So now I have like another question that is like very biased question related to our platform. So since Dastan is very much into the book publishing and we have like a lot of titles on our platform, and these are all original stories written mostly by Pakistani authors, but we also have stories from other countries as well. So I wanted to ask that, like, has DeafTalk turned any book into sign language to make it more accessible to deaf community? And like, do you have any such plans in going into that space?
Yep, we are doing the content translation, but to be honest, we are doing most of them to the videos currently. Um, and because if you translate a book, it turns into the video as well. So yeah, we
Yes,
can do, but we haven't done yet the book translation. Most of the videos been done. Like we are doing that with Netflix. We are doing with Virtual University to translating their videos into sign language, with Netflix to translating their produced dramas or series into sign language. But yes, it's a good idea. We can start initiative with Daastan to translating their books, their published books into sign language.
that's really amazing. So I think I'll give my team the heads on that this is something we can do definitely.
Definitely,
So
it's one of its own kind of initiatives.
yeah,
Like there are millions of books which are unable to read because there is no sign language. So
exactly.
why not?
And I'm just wondering, like, how do you build the capacity of the sign language interpreters? So, like for example, let's say if I am a translator, so how is there any mechanism in place where you kind of check that if the interpretation that they are doing is right or not?
Yeah, we have a robust checking system. Uh, First is the onboarding of them. It's a 2-day onboarding training, which define all the ethics of interpretation, which are do and don'ts of it. Then after that, it will be monitored regularly that who and which interpreter is following that ethics. If we got complaints, which we do usually because it's a service industry and customer always complains about it very
Yeah.
frequently, and we then have a mechanism to solve that conflicts or complaint mechanism with the interpreter as well as the user. So that's a whole system in line. But to some extent, um, sometimes users are very right. Always in the business term, we always say users are always right, but sometimes interpreters are there to be spot on.
Yeah, I can truly relate to that. So, another thing that I was like thinking about was like you and your platform DeafTawk is like kind of a role model for, I think, the whole Pakistani community, and especially the people who are visually impaired or who are deaf. So they all look up to you as like role model. So how hard it was for you to like kickstart this company and come to where you are today, and where do you see are like gaps where people from your community can come in and disrupt and still make a world a better and more inclusive place?
Well, it's important to define the problems, and we are very lucky to have a lot of problems, which can become a beautiful business cases. And if we talk about particularly the community of persons with disabilities, there are very few initiatives who are taking part as a pure business case. And that's one of the twin track for us, a twin track challenge for us. One being a startup who is working for the deaf community is as you align with the VCs or with the ecosystem that this community is huge. It's a 5% of the global population, half billion community across the globe are deaf. It's a huge addressable market which we are working with. That's one challenge to define or explain or sensitize the ecosystem. On the other side is that if we failed, nobody will trust persons with disabilities as a founder to reinvest them. So that's the twin burden or twin track challenge we are taking with ourselves. So that's AQ always remind us we have to be successful. We have to be succeed our vision. Otherwise, we can stop the way for other persons with disabilities to be entrepreneurs.
Exactly. So I think I do share a similar problem, because since we are dealing in literature, so throughout my life, the first question I've always received from the judges is, who reads books in Pakistan? Who reads books in this world? You are
Yeah.
targeting a very small niche. But then again, since we come from the same community and then we have experienced those problems firsthand,
Yeah.
so we truly understand that how big is the problem and what are the gaps that needs to be filled in and automated.
Okay.
Because
Well,
one
I'm surprised to hear that. Otherwise, Amazon cannot be Amazon if people don't read books.
exactly, and it started from books, and it
Yeah.
still is like gets a handsome revenue through books. Because
Yes.
one thing that I kind of often experienced was that uh, when there was this friend of mine, like I think that he was in one of the management from NIC, but now he has left. So when we were in like NIC and going through the incubation, he used to just observe us, and then like couple of years down the lane, he just calls me up and he says, "Umar, I'm just writing a book, and now tell me what do I do?" And so now I'm like, okay, so now you know the importance of Daastan. and then and then I walked him through the whole process of like how to publish a book. And when he went through the editing phase, and then he was like, "Bro, you are making the lives easier. I never imagined that this
Yeah.
is how hard
I
it is."
guess, yeah, no, I guess it's a huge potential Dastan has across the club because everybody has their own set of stories, but we don't
Exactly.
find writers, we don't find publishers who can define our stories, who can turn our experiences into words. So Dastan is one of those platforms which is filling that gap, and I guess it's a huge potential to scale globally because if Shahid Afridi can write a book to hire Wajid Khan, So why not we, all of us? We have a lot more to share, and we
Exactly.
can easily hire Daastan on for that particular part.
Exactly. So, Alivi, I think it was like in one amazing talk. We spoke a lot about your platform, and we learned a lot from you. So, before we close the session, I would just like to have two questions for you. One
Yeah.
is, if someone wants to reach out to you or DevTalk, or just want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Just two ways. One is just join our Facebook page, which is DeafTawk, DeafTawk, DeafTawk. You can write, you can get to Instagram, Facebook, and website is similar, DeafTalk.com. The other is just download our mobile application available on both iOS and Android. It's again DeafTalk, DeafTawk.
Okay, and the last message for the people who are streamed in, or who would be streaming the recordings later, what message do you want to give using this platform?
Well, in just a simple message, which I learned in last 3 years of working for the deaf community, working with Deaf Talk, is that we always fall in love with our products and our ideas, but we always forget the problems which we are here to solve. So just focus the problems, love that problems, and try to solve it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elvi. It was an amazing learning experience, and again, it was one amazing moment for me to get back and reconnect with you after so many years.
Likewise,
We are still so
likewise.
far away, but when you do come back to Pakistan, let's meet up.
Definitely, definitely. I have my plans now right above, so I will come.
Okay. So with this, we formally conclude our session. Thank you everyone who tuned in, and have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.